Hey there, Mark, back with NetPicks. So the purpose of this video is why I think everybody listening has to have some exposure to cryptocurrency. If you do not already, this is definitely the time. What I want to do in this short video is I want to take you through what we believe are the top 7 elite markets to hold for this bull cycle and why, and what to expect in the coming 12 to 24 months. I then want to also take you through what I consider the top 8 markets right now to actively trade for potential profits. And these names can change on a semi-regular basis, but it's important to look at these now to see where the opportunity is for trading profits and then how to prepare yourself for the next 12 to 24 months. Now, we call our top 7 markets our elite 7. It's not going to surprise you that Bitcoin is at the top of this list. After that is Ethereum, Solana, Avalanche, Chainlink, Polygon Matic, and Polkadot. This is our elite 7 portfolio. These are the names that we're looking to hold for a longer term. Now, longer term in crypto does not mean typically forever, like maybe you would think of your stock investments, but these are definitely ones that we believe in this cycle. The reality is in crypto, most of the markets that we see trading now, and there are thousands, will not exist. This is what we're looking at to be our core portfolio. Now, I have some stats here on the screen, and I want to show you why we don't just trade in Bitcoin, because Bitcoin right now needs to go up just 1.65x to reach its all-time high. A lot of people don't realize it's not that far away. It's already traded into the mid 40,000s, and the all-time high is up around 68,000. That's not a huge gain, 65% to get to all-time high. Now, we are expecting during this cycle for it to go well beyond that all-time high. Ethereum needs to go a little bit further to reach its all-time high, 2.25. But the reason we like to also mix in markets like Solana, Avalanche, Chainlink, Polygon Matic is because they are still very large markets. They're the top 20 of cryptocurrency markets out there, but they have a lot more to go just to challenge all-time highs, let alone set new all-time highs, which we expect. If you were to go here, this is a website, CoinMarketCap. We know right now that the value of Bitcoin, the market cap when I'm recording this, is about $800 billion. That might surprise a lot of people. It's very close to $1 trillion market cap. Ethereum, the next one in the list, is $264 billion. Going further down the list, I mentioned to you Solana. Solana is currently $30 billion market cap. There is a lot of talk potentially that it could challenge Ethereum. Well, to go from 30 billion market cap to 260, that's almost a 9x to go from here to here. So it starts to show you what the potential is to make sure that we have some exposure a little further down in market cap size. Going further down, we have Avalanche at a $15 billion market cap. Polkadot, just under 9 billion. Chainlink, about 8 billion, and Polygon near 8 billion. So you can see, right, what type of growth is potentially possible. I'm not for the moment saying that a Chainlink is going to challenge Bitcoin for dominance, but you can see what is truly possible if something like a Chainlink was to go from 8 billion to even up to 20 billion or 24. That's a 3x to get here, but it's still way off some of the top players. Let me show you a chart of Solana. This is on a weekly basis, and these are actually our buy points here this year, as low as just a little bit over $12, 25, 23, 19, 20, and it's got all the way up to $75. So it's been an extremely powerful year, over 500% from our lowest buy point this year. This is why it's really important to get in on a regular basis in these markets because of the type of gains that are possible. So you may think at this point you've missed out, right? You've had this huge gain up to this point, but you need to look at it in the context of where was it at the last bull market peak? We were way up here, $260. So looking at this chart, if you are willing to accept the theory that a market like Solana could challenge its all-time highs and go past it, do you feel at this point that you have missed the entire bull market? I think you would agree you have not. You're only here. You potentially could get up here and ideally much further in this cycle. This is why I believe you need to start being in these markets and really consider start being in these markets now before you miss out on much more of the upside. Again, this is our Elite 7 portfolio. This is what we are looking to hold for a longer term with an asterisk at the end, meaning not forever, but over the next 1 to 2 years. And we'll always be looking for places to get out. If we challenge all-time highs, you better believe we may reduce exposure. We may actually reduce the exposure in here and move it into Bitcoin and Ethereum. That's typically something that we would do. Now, you may be wondering, why are the markets like Bitcoin and the others moving so powerfully? There are 4-year cycles in cryptocurrency. I won't go through the whole thing of what the Bitcoin halving is, but just understand in between these 4-year cycles, there are horrendous bear markets. We've already suffered through 2 of those since just 2017. Those bear markets mean declines of 70 to 90%. Though I think next time, the next bear market, and there will be another one, might be more in the order of about 50%. We may not see as dramatic. But during these bull markets, by the way, you may be thinking also price is never going to come back down. That is also not true. I'm going to show you where during the best, most powerful bull markets over the last 2 cycles, we've had frequent corrections of 20, 30, 35%, or even sometimes more. There are going to be numerous opportunities here. It could be happening right now. It could be this month. It could be next month. But we're going to have numerous opportunities to buy into weakness, which is exactly what you want. You want to see price to come down because our thesis is ultimately prices are going to be much, much higher. So do not get shaken by any sell-offs that we may experience here also over this next 1 to 2 year period. And this is a very compressed chart, I realize, of Bitcoin, but we have been working to get people into these markets since 2017. That included the first big run up to 20,000, bear market, next huge run up to 68,000, huge bear market. And now the next bull cycle, which has started, and now we're back into the mid 40,000s. Now it may look, right, like when we had these big rallies, it never looked back, but that's not true. I'm going to show you the type of declines you had during these bull markets, which is why during a run up like this, you're going to get sell-offs. You will all get more opportunities to get in. So this was the first time that we were out getting into markets like Bitcoin. Now, this market wasn't nearly as mature as it is now. The news was a lot different. It was a lot more speculation. But understand the first run up to 20,000 had multiple substantial sell-offs. The decline that I'm showing you on the chart, it doesn't look like much, but do you know that was a 42% decline? That was your first decline in the start of this bull market. We had another decline right here, 38%. Again, in context, it doesn't look like much, but I can guarantee you over that month and a half when it was down 38%, the sky was falling for many investors. Would you not agree that those were amazing buying opportunities in retrospect? Another pullback over just a couple week period, 30%, substantial correction at that point. So you have multiple corrections, in this case, 30, 35%. Let's look at the next bull market. And let's come way off the lows. It got all the way down to $3,000, $4,000. Very hard, obviously, I understand, to be buying at those low points. Let's just say when the things were really starting to turn to the upside, we got back above $10,000. This was in 2020. Did we have big corrections during this amazing run-up to all-time highs? Let's take a peek. This one here was 25% over just the course of a few weeks. It looks small on the chart, but it's a 25% correction. This one here, 33%. This one here, 27%. And check this one out. This one went all the way down 55%. And you might think at that point it was over. It wasn't. It actually rallied back up and broke to new all-time highs in late 2021. I tell you this because I want you to know that there is still considerable opportunity here, but you need to be ready and you need to start entering into these markets. You need to take a position if you believe the same thesis like I'm laying out here, that we're going to see significantly higher prices over the next 24 months. Now, another thing I want to point out to you are the 4-year cycles. Notice the peak here was December 2017. All right, that was the all-time high. And then we had the dark days, we had the bear market, and then we had another recovery. And what happened once again? We reached all-time highs. That was the end of November 2021. 4 years later, all-time highs. And then same cycle, big bear market. And now what's happening? 4 years later, by the way, goes to all the way out here somewhere, November, December 2025. So between here and here, there's a lot of real estate where previously the last 2 4-year cycles, and even the one before that, all were bull markets with huge sell-offs, sometimes very painful, sometimes up to 50%, but still ultimately reached many multiples higher than current pricing. We are seeing the exact same cycle play out. Yes, this one will be different in its own way. There's a lot more information out now. We may see it move quicker than it has in the past. It's hard to say. You can never predict. We're not saying that it's going to be the exact same pattern, but the writing is really on the wall that it's going to be similar enough to what we've experienced the last 2 cycles since we've been involved in these markets. What if you had just 10% of your portfolio, put it into Bitcoin? And you did it 6 years ago when we started pushing these markets, but you kept 90% still in traditional stocks and bonds. So low risk. Yes, very high reward. The reality is that 10% of your portfolio could outperform the entire other 90%. Did you know that's actually possible? And we've seen this happen multiple times. The last thing I'm saying is liquidate everything and pour it into Bitcoin and Ethereum and everything else. No, you can take a very small part of your portfolio and have outsized performance by keeping the risk really low by just using a small part of your portfolio. Let me give you some stats here. Since 2018, if you put 60% into stocks, let's call it the S&P 500, which has been a great market, 40% into bonds, and you started with $10,000, no dollar cost averaging, you started with $10,000, you would have had $15,000 here at the end of 2023. 50% growth overall. The S&P 500 has been really great during that time, 15% gains per year. Bonds haven't grown as much but this is part of a balanced portfolio. These are good numbers for basically doing nothing in a passive portfolio. However, what if you would have instead done the same 60% in stocks, reduced your bonds a little bit from 40% down to 30%, and put 10% in Bitcoin back in early 2018? By the way, that was two big bear markets were going on. Price action was not good at that time. And as we had another huge bear market from 2021, really all the way to the beginning here of 2023. So it's not as if Bitcoin went on a straight shot up during this time. It had two very rough periods in price. Do you realize in just a few years, just the Bitcoin portion alone would be worth over $10,000? That's from starting from just $1,000. All we allocated of that first 10,000. It has grown 10x, and your portfolio would be 1.65x higher, not with big exposure to Bitcoin, and certainly not even exposure to the other markets I showed you that go up much more. Just 10% exposure, 10 cents on the dollar, and you would have added 1.65x to your returns overall. And by the way, that 10% of your portfolio, it doubled the gains of what the stock investment side did with 60% of the portfolio. That is what is potentially possible with these markets. Let me shift you over now to the second part of trading in cryptocurrency. And these are what we call our crypto rockets. These are the markets we do not fall in love with. These are the markets that we develop very short-term relationships with, and we look to break up quickly because we do not know for sure that these markets will be the winners for the long term. There's never any guarantee in any of these, but your risk is definitely much higher in these markets. But in the short term, they can prove to be quite powerful to trade. So let me give you the favorite names that we are trading right now actively in our crypto rocket strategy. And I put up the symbols here for you. You can see on the screen. You can do more research on these. You can look into these more. They're considerably smaller markets. And you can see Beam, USD, ILV, IMX, INJ, SKL, STX, Super, and TIA. These are markets, 8 of them, that we are having a great time trading actively. And that I believe every single time that we see a potential bull market setup, we want to be in because the potential moves are substantial. Let me give you an idea of what's possible in these markets. So this was a setup we had on one of these markets back in late October. We're talking 2 months in this case. And it was about at 8 cents. That's where this market was trading. Crypto trades in a lot of different increments. Doesn't really matter where it trades. You can put $100 into this market, $10, $1,000, $10,000. It really doesn't matter. In this case, it was at 8 cents. All right. And it took off to the upside. So as you can see on the screen here, over the course of just a couple weeks, it went up about 30%. That's great. But what happened over the next several weeks was fairly spectacular. At this point, it was up 87%. At this point here, it was up 211%. At the peak, it was up 528%. It wasn't done. At this point here, which is in December, it had grown 841%. And since that time, we've had a little bit of a pullback. So this was an 800% gainer in the course of 2 months. That is what's possible with some of these markets. Right now, we're pulling back and we are starting to get closer and closer to a new reentry on this market. But these crypto rockets, these are not ones that we stay in for long term. I'll give you our strategy on these in a moment. This is another favorite market, IMX USD, Immutable X. It's in the gaming space in crypto. We had a setup once again, mid-October. Okay, at this point, about 58 cents. You can see looking to the right what happened with this one all the way to the peak from 58 cents, right? 345% to the upside. So this was a time when Bitcoin was definitely growing, grew substantially, but usually on those kind of markets, we're talking 30%, 40%. On these other crypto rocket markets, it's not unusual to see 50%, 100%, 500%. It absolutely happens repeatedly. By the way, none of these are meme coins. None of these are Ponzi schemes that you see out there. There's a lot of those in the crypto space. And look, a lot of them can be traded and traded very successfully. It's not markets that I'm looking to get involved in, but I'm certainly not saying that there's not opportunity in those. These are all legitimate projects. I just don't know for sure that they will be around 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now. But tradable, you better believe it. INJ USD, Injected Protocol. We just had a setup recently on this one, just a couple weeks ago. So we got in here in early December. This was a 91% move. That's why we want to have exposure as well to these crypto rocket markets. And that's why I want to share these markets with you, because anytime we get a pullback on these, we're going to get another buying opportunity that I believe could grow significantly. These 8 for sure. Any type of correction, like I mentioned to you, Bitcoin goes down 20, 30, 35%. All of these are going to correct a lot more, and that's going to set up the next move to the upside. So we are looking for buying opportunities on all of these. Now, typically when I trade those markets, I always look to exit at least half at 20%. I am happy at that level because if I do this every single time in these markets, typically that 20% happens if it's traded successful in 1 to 4 days. I can get my capital in and out 1 to 4 days. But I do typically also like to hold some of that, call it 50%, sometimes less, sometimes more, for a trailing gain. I want to trail that. The trails can go 50%, 100%, 500%. They don't always. Sometimes I'll get out at a fixed target at 20%, and the trailer will end up break even. That's going to happen as well. There's no guarantees. But on occasion, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5x on one of those trailers, that's a lot of 20% winners, right? If you get 100% winner, that's like hitting 5 trades, 20%. So you can see why I believe it's so important to mix the two strategies together. So this active trading means we can play pure speculation. Look, 98% of the projects out there, I don't think they're going to make it. Some of them might actually enter and become top markets out there in the top 20, the top 30. It's probably going to happen, but most of them will not. But you don't need them to because you're just trading them actively. We're not looking to hold these from up 500% to down 80%. I can show you patterns on all of these markets. That's exactly what happened the last bull cycle. It's going to happen again this bull cycle, but we don't care. And the way I like to look at it with capital, 80% devote towards the Elite 7, the top markets. 20% devoted towards active trading. Small percentage of your overall asset allocation to crypto. Because that 10% or 5% or 20% or 30%, whatever you're comfortable with, absolutely could make way more than the rest of your portfolio. Literally, the 10% may outshine the other 90%. That's number one. Then from there, you break it down even further and towards the really high risk but high reward, the crypto rockets, maybe we put about 20% towards that. So again, each individual trade never hurts. If it doesn't work out and it goes against us and we have to exit, it's not a big deal because it's a piece of another piece of the portfolio. But the reality is also this part could make more than this part. And this part could make more than the entire rest of your portfolio. That is the opportunity we're talking about. So absolutely, you have to have an exit plan, including for the Elite 7. Remember, this is 4-year cycles that's going to be loaded with frequent small corrections, maybe even some mini bear markets along the way. So we always have to have exit plans as well, which is part of how we trade. The message here is one, if you're already in, great. Now we need to look for new opportunities because we're not going to have these opportunities very frequently in cryptocurrency. It happens once every 4 years. Sometimes it happens really quick. And it's quite likely as this market gets more and more mature, we're not going to see the type of percentage gains we're seeing this time. It probably will not repeat itself the next 4-year cycle. So this is the time to take advantage. If you are not positioned yet, I believe, watch this video again, go through it, and start to learn how to position in these markets. And if you'd like to learn more about how we trade these markets, how we time our entries, just make sure you go to netpicks.com. There'll be a link down below. Just get yourself onto our list. We'll notify you periodically when we make our strategies and our timing systems available. If it's something of interest to you, you can certainly do it on your own as well. We do a good job of identifying the crypto rocket markets that are actively moving now, and those do rotate on a frequent basis. In addition, we do find nice entry points for the Elite 7. We can share that with you. Just go to the website, make sure you're on our list, and you'll be notified of that if you're interested. If you have any questions, post those below, and I'll be happy to get back to you with my answer and assessment of what you're looking at. All right, with that, great trading, everybody, and looking for a lot more success here over the next 12 to 24 months.